Hey,
All right. Good evening, friends. Welcome back to the Quarantine Drinking Team series here on our Bourbon blog, social media, and my good friend, Paul Hletko, founder of FEW Spirits there in Evanston, Illinois. Where
hey,
you're
Tom.
at the distillery right now.
I'm at the distillery right now. You got some stills behind me. I just realized that I forgot to grab myself a drink, and that's
You
kind of an
gotta,
important part of this evening.
you better grab a drink. I have a few back here. We have some great FEW Spirits. I have a few of the FEW. Actually, I have three of the FEW here. We're going to taste with Paul. We're going to take your questions down below. So make sure if you're watching this, whether it's YouTube Live, Facebook, or Twitter, share this, like this, let your friends know we're having a party here. And we started this, Paul, about, it's at least 3.5 weeks. Anyway, almost since the beginning of the quarantine, I've been doing this every night with another great friend. And we're just glad to have you tonight to talk whiskey with us and tell us what's been happening with you guys at FEW. I guess that's a good place to start. What has been happening? What's been happening at FEW since all this has started?
Well, I think we're a lot like an awful lot of people. There's been an awful lot of hurry up and wait, where it's brief moments of extreme panic followed by moments of complete boredom.
Right.
We've been working on trying to keep things going. We were lucky enough that we have been able to participate a little bit in the hand sanitizer craze.
Right.
So we did a little different than a lot of guys or a lot of people. And we just worked with a sanitizer company here in Chicago called Meliora.
That already make sanitizers.
Yeah, they make cleaning products. That's what they do. And so we made some ethanol, got the ethanol as high as we could get it, and donated all of that ethanol to a cleaning company.
Wow.
And then they gave us back sanitizer, and we then donated all of that sanitizer to the local police and to the local hospital here.
Excellent.
Which is that felt good.
They knew what they were doing, and you just jumped in with your alcohol and helped them get it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know what we're doing a lot of stuff, but there's an awful lot of stuff that we just simply don't know what we're doing.
Right.
And making sanitizer is one of them. I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to put somebody on a ventilator. I don't know a lot of stuff. I can make whiskey, and sometimes that's all I can do.
Well, we're glad you do that, and I think that's a great approach you've taken, and helping everybody out. Cheers! I actually just started with which one are you drinking on there? Well,
I'm actually drinking our brand new Cold Cut.
That's the one I was starting. We were just talking about.
Hey, there we go.
A FEW Cold Cut. Now, this is a really one of a kind bourbon. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. Look at that, matching bottles.
It's in stereo.
Yes. Tell us about the Cold Brew Coffee Bourbon Whiskey. This is really good.
So it's funny because it's super simple. It's bourbon whiskey, the same bourbon whiskey we make every day.
Right.
But then obviously once it comes out of barrel, it gets proofed down with water usually. With the FEW Cold Cut, we use cold brew coffee to bring it down to bottle proof instead of water. Coffee, of course, being mostly water, but with some delicious, delicious caffeine involved. It's super simple. It's no sugar added. It's not a liqueur. There's no artificial flavors. There's no chemicals. It's bourbon and cold brew coffee. It's bottled at 93 proof, 46.5%. So it's real whiskey.
Yeah.
It's not a low proof liqueur. It's not something hiding as a whiskey. That's not really. It's whiskey with coffee.
Proof down.
And,
so what inspired this? I mean, I can only imagine you like having some bourbon and coffee together.
Well, it turns out I drink a lot of coffee. And I drink more coffee than any human being realistically probably should. But, for years, we tried to figure out a way to get coffee and whiskey to play together. Yes, obviously, everybody's got coffee cocktails and so on. We're not geniuses. But we played around with a bunch of different ideas on how to get coffee and whiskey to play together. We did one release where we barrel aged some coffee and then dumped the coffee and finished the bourbon in the barrel aged coffee barrels. That was really good. We did another release where we did this exact same concept, but did it for a gin instead of whiskey, and that was really good.
So it was gin with
cold brew coffee.
Cold brew coffee.
Yep.
So those notes, how did those play together? The gin, the coffee.
Oh, it was fantastic.
It does
actually. Yeah, one.
Very nice. Congratulations.
There you go. Best in class for a craft gin last year at the ACSA.
Great stuff.
It was really cool. It was a very cool product. Maybe a little bit esoteric in that it really it didn't drink like a gin. It really drank like an Amaro. But a very, very high proof, very not sugary Amaro.
Right.
Which was good, but people weren't. It was very hard to figure out what to do with it. People tried it, they liked it, but it kind of sat there. Whereas now with the FEW Cold Cut, people get it. It's a much quicker jump to go, oh, it's whiskey and coffee? Sweet. I've had Irish coffee before. This will be really cool. Yeah. Whereas the coffee gin combo, I thought was a little bit, you had to make a little bit more of a mental jump.
Right. It's very creative, but this is something that people really can get behind and understand. I love it. I mean, I get the way that the coffee comes together in that subtle, nice tone to really complement your bourbon. It's just really, it's something so special. So you take it out of the barrel. What proof does it come out of the barrel at?
It comes out about 122. Yeah, obviously every barrel is different. But, low end 120, high end 126, 127 usually. Goes in at 118. And so, this kind of comes out. And then you add the cold brew, and now you got FEW Cold Cut.
That's great. Is this one that's going to be, is it part of your permanent line? Is it limited? Where can people find this?
Yeah, I mean, it should be out there. It's certainly not everywhere yet, right. But we just won World's Best Whiskey at the World Whiskey Awards with it, so people are picking up notice.
You got some good awards.
Yeah, but you can find it, an awful lot of places. Certainly here in Illinois, Binny's, Reserve Bar. I believe Caskers is carrying it online. I believe High Times out in California has it. One West DuPont in DC. Julio's in Boston, or outside Boston. I believe Liquor Barn has it down in Kentucky. Right. ABC and Crown in Florida. Cask in San Francisco. Total Wine. Not everywhere, but almost everywhere Total Wine is. Sun Devil Liquors in Phoenix. It's getting out there.
It's getting out there. No, that's really nice. And it's something that you guys plan on always having out there. Is it going to be a yearly release or a? Yeah,
no, we, obviously the market will continue to tell us, but we really think that it's something special. It's not, it qualifies as a flavored whiskey, but it's really not. It doesn't drink like a lot of the big sugary flavored whiskeys that are out there. And so we think it's a real product. We think it's got real legs, and we're really getting behind it.
I like the sweetness in it, but it's not overwhelming. It's well balanced. It's what a good spirit can be. A lot of great friends watching us and commenting from Jeff Schwartz and Donald Snyder. Welcome, man.
What's up, Jeff? Hey, Donald.
A lot of great people watching. Jeff's asking about if the coffee is overwhelming at barrel proof. I guess if you put the coffee into barrel proof and kept it barrel proof with coffee, is that maybe just a higher proof? You kind of probably played with some proofs, didn't you?
We played with proofs. I mean, it's what I think makes it special is that it's actually not overwhelming.
Right.
And what we've found is that you get a little bit of ebb and flow of the coffee.
Gotcha.
So at least in my experience, the first sip, I really don't get that much coffee. A little bit of kind of
yeah.
The more you drink, the more coffee you get, and then you get to a little bit of peak, and then it starts going back down. And you get a little bit more whiskey. So I think that's one of the things that makes it a really interesting product is that you want to keep on coming back to it. You have a sip and then you let it rest. So I just had a sip a minute ago, and at the moment I'm really getting all coffee. I'm getting all whiskey. A little bit of coffee right in the front.
Towards the front. That softness.
But it really, the coffee and whiskey really play magnificently together. And I know there's an awful lot of whiskey guys out there going, "This is a sacrilege. This is terrible." I get it. I feel you. Try it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those things that it's subtle enough and beautiful. When flavors, when other elements can come into a great bourbon or a great whiskey, I think it's something that enthusiasts can get behind. I mean, I've seen enthusiasts that have said, "I'm not going to try this." Try something, and then they're like, "Wow, this is really amazing," and it really is good. What's this go for a bottle approximately?
MSRP is $45.
Cool. It's really
so $45, not bad.
Really
it's a line price with our bourbon rye. Like I said, we're really excited about it, and we think it's going to be doing a lot of good stuff. And I've never seen anything quite like it.
No, there's nothing that I've seen like it. Just a little bit of caffeine in there still. We get to get a touch of caffeine.
Touch of caffeine.
Right.
It's about a cup and a half of caffeine in the entire bottle.
Right.
So if you drink a whole bottle of whiskey, you'll have about a cup and a half worth of coffee of caffeine in you. But you will drink an entire bottle of 93 proof whiskey. So maybe don't do that. If you're drinking, only drink a few. Don't drink too much, just a few.
Don't drink too much. Jeff says it sounds amazing. He's going to check it out. We had another question I think someone asked, because I know you're in a variety of countries, which we talked about a little bit earlier. In 35 countries?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. Stephen is asking if he was available in Australia.
So very, very thinly available in Australia. We were working with a distributor down there, and they did really a very good job. But we here at FEW didn't really do a great job of supporting them. And so you'll find some here and there down in Australia, primarily in Melbourne, which is where the old guys were based.
Right.
But it's going to be few and far between. Australia is really tough. Oddly enough, you cross over just was about 6 hours away into New Zealand. You'll find us all over New Zealand. So yeah, just pop over to New Zealand. No big deal.
What if your fans can make the journey and take a few bottles?
It's only a 6 hour flight. No big deal.
Hey, it's worth it. Bring back several bottles. That way you'll have plenty. I bet a lot of people, since we've been staying in during the quarantine, have experimented with some type of a breakfast type cocktail that we typically wouldn't. I mean, a lot of us are, in for the morning hours a little more than we have. Have you ever had just a breakfast cocktail that just knocks your socks off? The favorite one that you have, Paul?
Well, usually, honestly, with breakfast cocktails, I usually find myself going towards the French 75, which is, I know, gin. It's terrible gin. But I will say that, those whiskey cocktails go down pretty well. You get a little hot toddy with some tea. Right. You can, American up your coffee with some few cold cut, as well as, anything else. That certainly found its way in there. I just did, just before all this stuff went down, I did a paired dinner actually in my hometown where I grew up. And they had a play on an Irish coffee as the dessert cocktail. And it was unbelievable.
Wow.
They use mascarpone cheese instead of cream. And it was a split base with the few cold cut and then an apple brandy. And
oh man, that was good.
It was transcendent. It was sweet and bitter and rich, and that nice mascarpone, sweet, right, cheesy, creamy. I don't even know what mascarpone is other than damn delicious. It's good stuff.
What's the name of the place where this happened?
That was a place called Kitchen House, which is in Richland, Michigan, the town I grew up.
Cool.
It was me and 725 of my closest friends.
Nice. Very nice. Some fans of the Cold Cut. Jeff Kruger says, love FEW Cold Cut.
Thanks, Jeff.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks for watching, Jeff. Thanks for everybody who's watching us here on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube Live. Definitely, as you're watching this, like this, share this. We're just excited to have a drink with everybody. And as we are talking about your spirits here, just you being one of our favorite craft distillers, let's talk a little bit about how COVID and the shutdown with restaurants and just really hospitality. How is this going to affect craft distillers? How is it affecting craft distillers? What are your thoughts on this?
I think certainly in the current moment and in the foreseeable future, it is beyond painful.
Right.
Our revenue has gone down, shall we say.
Right.
The complete destruction of the on-premise business across the entire country is unprecedented. We do a lot of business in the on-prem, and having that entire channel go to effectively zero overnight is bad.
Wow. Yeah.
ACSA, American Craft Spirits Association, put out a study about 2 weeks ago saying that 2/3 of craft distillers were going to go out of business by the end of April. And I haven't seen that much of a exodus from the business quite yet, but I think it's coming. As a whole, craft distillers are undercapitalized, under-resourced, and even before this, a lot of people were sitting scraping by and trying to figure out how to make it to next month. And that was before losing the on-premise business entirely, or losing your own personal on-premise business. It's been really tough. We at FEW, we're doing okay. We're hanging in, but certainly there's a lot of changes that are happening across the business. It's not good, and everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do. And then once this new normal hits, whatever this new normal is or looks like, it'll be a whole nother period of adjustment. What is new normal? Once
it's hard to know.
Yeah. No one knows. Like once you pretend that everything opens up on, say, May 15th. Right. I don't know. I'm not advocating anything. Don't throw stones at me. I'm just picking a date. What happens then? Nobody knows, because will people go back out to restaurants? Will restaurants be there?
Even if they're open, will they be ordering those drinks? Will they be? How many people will be there? Will it be? Yeah.
Will you be able to get into a restaurant? Are the restaurants going to be doing? What kind of business are they going to be doing?
Right.
Sporting events and all the stuff that goes around with that. Maybe the baseball game is not on, but if the baseball game is not on, A, I'm not going to Wrigley. B, I'm not going to party in Wrigley beforehand. C, I'm not going to party in Wrigley after the game.
Right.
There's, nobody knows, and that's even ignoring any sort of structural changes that might happen. Will the American public tolerate going back to the restrictions that were on liquor beforehand? Are people now used to buying bottles of wine at restaurants? Are people used to getting cocktails to go?
Right.
Can you take that away? I don't know.
But as you were saying, so many craft distillers do rely upon what happens on premise.
Yeah, that's on premise is historically one of the best ways for people to discover craft distiller brands. Right. That's how people discover us as bartenders, and they see it on the back bar and go, "Oh, what's that?"
That's how a lot of your products got discovered, right?
Right. That's how people find us. And if you don't find us that way, it becomes really tough. And I've always thought that, I never see myself or FEW as competing with, other distilleries. I really don't see us as competing with them. I don't think we compete with classic Kentucky distilleries. I don't think we compete with other craft distilleries. I think we compete with Netflix. And Netflix got a lot tougher to compete with over the last month, because that's all you can fucking do with them. That's all you can do is watch Netflix.
That's right.
And if you're watching Netflix,
rather than
you're not learning.
Watch Netflix and chill out with a craft cocktail. That's what we have to.
You can, but are you going to discover my brand to chill out with that?
Right.
Or are you going to figure out your classic brand that you always have?
Right.
You don't discover.
Yeah.
So that becomes very hard to compete with because Netflix is pretty tempting. You're sitting on your couch and go, oh, okay, there you go.
Right.
There's the whole Netflix and chill phenomenon, which I'm too old to participate in, of course. But there are those that enjoy that. You got legal weed all over the U.S. Now you got weed and Netflix, and they got weed delivery systems. It's a very it changes the competitive landscape for sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's true. So the study says potentially 2/3 could go. I mean, any idea where those numbers come from, or any thoughts on those numbers? What do you?
Well, the numbers came from us.
Right.
You ACSA put out a survey. I answered the survey.
Right.
I'm not one of them that's going to go out of business this month, but many of us are.
Right.
So it's as not made up of a number as you can get.
Yeah. Okay. I feel you.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing I'm telling everybody. Like, this craft spirits are fantastic, but if you like them, you actually have to buy them because this is how we stay in business.
Right. So for all those watching, and people are saying down below, how important it is to support them. Definitely find whether it's local liquor stores, whether you're ordering them online, whatever it might be. Support the craft guys and gals and everybody doing craft. It's so important right now.
It's so important. If you like it, you have to support it. You can't just say, "Oh, well, I see it everywhere. I'm really glad." I've certainly been seeing an awful lot of private memes getting passed around of, we get hit up on the daily for about 40, 50 grand of free booze for this charity or that charity, or if you're one of the people that's been asking your local craft for this or for that for the last X number of years, this is when they need you. Right. They stood up for you and you asked them. Maybe don't make them ask.
Right. We got to get behind craft like we never have before, because we appreciate all that Paul, folks like you have done in craft for us, and just what you have done for really the whiskey revolution. The rise of bourbon is much thanks to craft the last 15 years. I mean, it's gotten people excited regionally with regional flavors of bourbon, with what you've done with the bartending community, employing just everything for the local economies, for tourism. It's so important to realize that so much of this has come back to why we all love bourbon, why we have Bourbon Blog, why we like to talk about it, is because of craft.
And I think craft, again, this is not just craft or anything. This is whiskey, but
right.
Whiskey as a whole brings people together.
Right.
And you celebrate, the good times in life with whiskey, and you commiserate the bad times in life with whiskey, but you get together with friends and family to drink whiskey, and don't stop that. Maybe you have to do it via Zoom or via, maybe you have to do it virtually,
right.
But don't be socially isolated, be socially distant.
Right.
This will pass.
Yes.
But the damage it leaves could be permanent, even if you're lucky enough to survive, which hopefully we all are.
Right.
This will leave a toll for a long time. So do what you can.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, in spirits, even though a few months is significant, as you're speaking about, more significant than most of us even realize for a business. When we think about, not exactly the same analogy, but kind of, Prohibition, how long it lasted and how long it took all those distilleries to come back. Of course, that was, over a decade, but still, where you guys have come back, we look at the history and we think it took a while to bring distilleries back to the U.S.
I mean, hell, it's been, not quite 100 years, and you can still feel the impact of Prohibition across the U.S.
Right.
There are scars that don't go away.
Yeah.
It's, I don't mean to be somber and an asshole and Debbie Downer, but celebrate with your friends and family. And if you, keep on celebrating. And if you like the variety of craft spirits that are out there, maybe you like few, maybe you don't. I sure hope you do, but if you don't, there is one that you do like. So try a few. If you don't like it, try somebody else. If you try somebody else and you don't like them, try a few. Right. Don't. We're all in this together, and it ripples through.
Right. It's very, very well said. As Tim says down below, well said, very well said, Paul. We're so glad you're talking with us. Show us. Let's see the distillery for a moment. I'm going to pour a little bit of your.
Let's have happy thoughts. Let's do happy.
Yeah, we'll try. Well, it's important the perspective you bring, and I'm glad you're sharing it.
So let's have some. Yeah. So apologize. Okay. Yeah. So before I'll turn the camera around here so you can kind of see things and be a lot less dizzying. But a little bit of apologies for the condition. We kind of shut down in a hurry. So
we understand.
My apologies. We do not look like this on the normal. We're all trying to stay safe. We've been shut down now. And, again, apologies. Please don't judge.
Oh, I think we lost Paul, but we will bring him back in. I'm sure he is about to come back. And again, for those of you watching us, I think he's about to come back in. We're talking with Paul. And there he is.
That's all right. Turn the camera around. There. I tried to turn the camera around. It didn't work. Here we go.
Here we go. All right. There it is.
Hey, all right. Sorry.
No problem.
Right, now it's not moving, though.
Oh, that's cool.
So, here we go. All right. So here we got, this is kind of our tasting room. This is our public area. We were in the middle of a big cleaning binge and we, ran away. So again, sorry. But this is kind of our public area. This is our bar area. And then we'll move on back into the production facility.
Nice.
Here at FEW, this is where we produce everything we make. We actually distill everything we make from scratch on our equipment by hand. So a little different than a lot of other distilleries that are out there because we actually make whiskey. Right. But this is just distillation. We have all of our barrel warehouses off-site. Our bottling services, our bottling line is off-site as well. Again, you'll see very, very small. All of our grain is here. We've got custom ground for us. Even got a name on the bags of corn, which is
the corn kind of bags with your name on it.
Yeah, they a while ago they tried putting it through a price hike, and I said no. In fact, we'll take a price cut. And like, well, no, we're not going to give you a price cut, but how we put your names on the bag? So like, all right, fine.
Good.
You always negotiate. But here we've got our mash tank up here on the platform. To get a nice little view up here. But mash tank up here, we do about 900 gallons of mash every cycle. We do that about twice a day. So we're total about 2,000 gallons of mash a day. We use about 4,000 pounds of grain a day.
Wow.
So coming up on 30,000 pounds of grain a week. Many of you, if you don't know what mashing is, I'll just kind of go real quick and just say mashing is basically cooking it. I assume most of the people watching are at least partially familiar, but if not, basically, especially when you're making bourbon, you break down the grains by cooking them in what's called the mash tun, and that's kind of what you're looking at there. It's kind of like a big giant 5-gallon soup pot that you might cook soup in on your stove.
Right.
Except mine holds over 900 gallons, and
it's a lot of soup.
Your soup pot probably doesn't hold 900 gallons. You add in the malted barley then once the grain is cooked, and that barley then takes the cooked grain that's been broken down into starches, and the barley then converts the starches into sugars. You add yeast in the fermenters, and once it's in the fermenters, then the yeast converts these sugars into alcohol, which is kind of the whole point of having a distillery, is that alcohol.
Right.
So once it's done in the mash tank, it goes into our fermenters. We've got 3 60-barrel fermenters here, each of which holds about 2,100 gallons of liquid. And that's where the actual fermentation takes place. Over here, we've got 2 more, but smaller fermenters. Once our fermentation is complete, you end up with about 10% alcohol by volume distiller's wash that we then run through our column still, which goes all the way up into the ceiling. Obviously not running at the moment, but gives you an idea That column still is going to separate out the alcohol from the water and grain very quickly and efficiently.
Right.
Creates a product called low wines, which we then finish in our finishing stills, which are over here.
Nice.
We have 2 stills, and so here's where we get all of our copper. This is our whiskey still right here, which is where we produce our whiskey, as you probably already guessed. And then our gin still over here, which is where we then produce our gin, as you probably guessed. You could tell by the relative size, the relative how much you make relative.
Right.
Except it doesn't really tell you the story because that runs 2 days. That one's twice a day, 7 days a week, and that one runs on average about once a week. So, yeah, we make a lot more whiskey than gin. Yeah, so column still over there runs best continuously. These run best in a batch fashion. I'm going super quick here. If anybody has questions, certainly happy to answer. But trying to give it a really quick.
Nice.
Trying to give really quick. I got a blending tank over here where we then barrel everything on the scale here, and over here we've got the barrels that we were supposed to fill before we ran away. So these are all just sitting here empty, which is a very, very sad.
Filled, but that was what, 3.5, 4 weeks ago or so. You guys just.
Yep. So right now they're just kind of sitting here, which is sad, but less sad than sick distillers. So we're this is sad, but it could be a lot worse.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And that's basically it. Yeah. Once the barrels are full, we move them to one of our barrel warehouses, and then bottle it and ship it out all over the country and all over the world.
How far away are those warehouses that you age in?
So we technically have 4 warehouses, but 2 of them are directly next door to each other. So really just 3. One of them is about a 1/4 mile. One of them is about 1.5 miles, and the other one's about 1.25 miles-ish. So everything's really very close to be, everything's very close here. We are in an urban area. Those of you who have been to visit us or not, this is a very urban area. So it's not like just going a couple miles down the country highway. We load everything up onto a pick-em-up truck and drive it around the city. I'll show you the pick-em-up truck because why not? Why not? There you go.
Yeah.
Pick-em-up truck.
That's the pick-em-up truck.
Yeah, we bought it in pristine shape about 6 years ago, and let's just say we've given it a lot of really tough love.
It's hauled a little, hasn't it?
It moves a lot of whiskey.
So that room you're in there, the tasting room, that's a room that people come into for tasting and cocktails. What happens there?
Yep. Tastings, tours, cocktails, retail sales. We sell by the bottle here. We got swag, we got T-shirts, we got the posters, we got the baseball caps. Sometimes we got the hockey sweaters, but
so once you're back open, visit Paul and the friends at FEW, and you're about far from Chicago.
We are just about 1 mile from the city limits. So we're right on the train line. You can probably hear the metro in the background there. We're right next to the train, right next to the L, right next to the metro.
Real close.
25 minutes on the metro, 45 minutes on the L from the loop. 35 minute drive from almost anywhere in the city, except for the deep south side is different. But we're pretty easy to get to, and we don't bite. You can check us out at fewspirits.com to book tours when they come back on. And you can probably find us at your local liquor store.
Yeah, absolutely. We're about to taste I just poured a little bit of the straight bourbon for the next spirit. And thanks for that tour. That was really helpful. Someone did ask just now a question, which we'll transition into the bourbon. How many years does the regular bourbon age versus the cold cut? Is it the same bourbon really that's going in there?
It's the exact same bourbon. There's zero difference.
Bourbon. Okay. Exact same bourbon, except this is proofed down with water. The other is proofed down with the cold cut. Coffee.
Yeah, it's the exact same whiskey.
Okay, exact same whiskey. So about how old is your bourbon?
Everything's aged to taste, so we don't really put an age statement on
Right.
anything. A lot of the crowd, very few of the craft guys really put age statements on, primarily because I don't believe in them.
Right.
Everything's straight. I think we have some of the older whiskey in the craft business. We've been out. We're a relatively established craft distiller.
Right.
I think we were talking beforehand. The FEW Bourbon is the number 2 selling craft bourbon in the U.S. for folks that make their own, and then rye is the number 1 selling craft rye in the U.S. for folks that make their own.
Congratulations!
So, people who drink it like it.
Cheers! Great bourbon. Tell us about. Well, you showed us the grains. Tell us about your bourbon and what makes it different there in what you do in Illinois.
Sure. So, obviously, we're here in Illinois, but I think so. The bourbon's a mash bill of 70% corn, 20% rye, 10% malt. I don't know of a Kentucky distillery with that exact mash bill, but I know it exists.
Right.
Somebody's got a 7119, but again, the mash bill is not what makes the bourbon special. What we think makes the bourbon special is that, A, we make it, and B, the yeast that we use to ferment. We're very persnickety about the yeast we use. And on the bourbon, we use a yeast that has a lot of cinnamon, clove, and pepper flavors. It's a Belgian beer yeast. And the way we use it makes it a very, very spicy bourbon.
Yes.
At least as far as bourbons go.
Right. It is a nice spice.
There's you'll get a lot of I don't really like red hot, so I don't like calling it the red hot spice, but it's that kind of that sweet cassia cinnamon spice.
Yes, cinnamon. I get a touch of clove on this as well.
Yeah, a little bit of clove. Again, it's bourbon. There's plenty of sweetness. So I don't want to pretend that it's going to be like a big heavy sweet bomb because it's not.
Right.
But in the world of bourbons, I think it's a very, very spicy bourbon. We actually get a lot of people that say our bourbon drinks like a rye whiskey.
Yes. It has that nice that zest of something really flavorful, deep. It's beautiful stuff. Very candied yet spicy. It's lovely stuff.
Yeah. So it's something we're really proud of. We think it's a fantastic bourbon. It doesn't taste like Kentucky at all because it's not. Being Kentucky bourbon is obviously a good thing because people down in Kentucky make really good bourbon.
Right.
But that makes it impossible for me to compete trying to make bourbon that tastes like Kentucky. So we don't.
Your goal was
slamming
something. What's that?
Yeah, I'm not slamming Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah,
if anything, it's a tip of the hat. This stuff's
right,
awesome.
Of course.
I think you and I've had the same conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I've got my favorite Kentucky bourbon. You've got your favorite Kentucky bourbon. They're probably different, and we're both right.
Right.
And that's okay. And so that's the bourbon. Our FEW rye they're just the inverse mash bill: 70 rye, 20 corn, 10 malt. But the yeast we use on the rye is a French wine yeast. So while the bourbon you get an awful lot of this really great spice, on the rye, obviously rye is always going to be a little bit on the spicier side.
Right.
On the rye, you get a little bit of fruit: plum, pear, stone fruit, raspberries. And the bourbon or the rye drinks a little bit like a bourbon. Everything's kind of playing against class and type. So you got to make it a little bit interesting.
Absolutely. And I think some of those watching know the story behind the name FEW, but for those that don't, tell us about the name FEW and where that came from.
So the name FEW really just means that we don't make a whole lot, and you don't need too much to have a good night. You just need a few.
Right.
But a lot of people have noticed that we are in Evanston, Illinois, not Chicago.
Right.
And Evanston was the birthplace of the entire Prohibition movement, as led by the Women's Christian Temperance Union. And the Women's Christian Temperance Union was led by a woman, and her name was. Yeah, I'll get it set up here someday. Frances Elizabeth Willard.
Yes.
And so many people see a similarity with her initials in our name, although it is, of course, a complete and total coincidence.
Total coincidence. Great story, though.
Well, I never wanted to let the truth interfere with a good story.
What do we see on this bottle, on the bourbon bottle here?
So all the iconography, including on the bourbon, is stuff you would have seen for the first time at the 1893 World's Fair here in Chicago. And so on the bourbon, that's the Statue of the Republic.
Okay.
And it was kind of the defining image of the World's Fair.
Right.
So people came to Chicago that summer, got to see it.
Right.
There's a picture of it.
There it is.
And so you can kind of see her butt right there. And then the background, you can see the world's first electric water fountain, which is on the rye. You can see all the little pictures, like little ant guys to the side. But of course, they're actually people, not ants. I'm just going to give you an idea of the scope and the size.
And then on the cold brew, what do we see on the cold brew?
So on the cold brew, it's just kind of we got a little bit apart from it, but it's kind of an old coffee roaster.
Old coffee roaster.
We took a little liberty with that one.
Goes back to those days, right?
Yeah. So we do a little bit of artistic liberty on the World's Fair connection there, but it's an old school coffee roaster. But then like the American whiskey bottle that I see over your shoulder in the background, that was the front page of the yearbook from the World's Fair. I bought an original yearbook from the World's Fair on eBay, and that was the cover of what you brought home from the World's Fair to show all your friends back home that you were there. You went to Chicago, and you didn't get killed by the murderer, but you came home.
You got. Well, have you been to some of the World's Fairs in the past?
No, I mean they really stopped them a long time ago. Last one I'm really aware of or even heard of was in Knoxville, which I think was 84.
84. I went to that when I was a kid, so that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
They have had them since, but they're just not that big of a deal. Right. They were huge back then because it was the only way you could find out what was going on in the world.
Right.
There's no television. There's no radio, although they did first demonstrate some radio stuff at the World's Fair. Thomas Edison debuted his brand new incandescent light bulb. They introduced Cracker Jacks to the world. A young German immigrant brewer named Gustav Pabst introduced his brand new beer, and he actually won a blue ribbon for it. No one ever knows whatever happened to Pabst Blue Ribbon, but I'm sure somebody has heard about it somewhere.
And the story has it that the cone that was for ice cream was invented at the World's Fair because they ran out of cups. They started using somebody's waffle iron. And they made a waffle cone. That's what story has it. That's how the cone.
I'm buying it. If you're selling it, I'm buying it.
A lot of good stories, World Fair. No, I love the bottle. That's what so many people were saying as I posted about. Hey, we're going to be talking with Paul today. People not only love the whiskey, they love the bottle. They love the iconography, just what it speaks. It's beautiful.
It always looks like a playing card. Bicycle playing cards got introduced there.
Do you have some playing cards with you on them, or?
It turns out I do. I don't know where they are.
You actually have some.
The pride and joy that we have that nobody else has, of course, is we got hockey pucks.
Nah, you're some of the only ones that have that. I bet that's good.
Lots of guys got playing cards. I got hockey pucks.
Very nice. Always a winner with that hockey puck. Again, those of you just joining us, it's FEW Spirits tonight. We're having some whiskey with Paul, and we're just having some good laughs, but also talking about some serious stuff. We do this every night on our social media channels. Quarantine Drinking Team. We're about 3.5, 4 weeks into it. Some great guests every night. Our guests are listed on Bourbon Blog, and if you know anybody who wants to join us, Tom at bourbonblog.com. Definitely write to us. And tell you what, if anybody has any questions, ask them down below. Tweet back to us. Why don't we try the American? Let's try the American whiskey here.
Oh, good call. Yeah, so the American's a really fun one.
What was it? A couple years ago, you introduced the American? Yeah.
So we launched it almost 2 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
And it's still, it continues to grow. It's a challenging category because people think of American whiskey as just being bourbon. And This is not bourbon. It's not. But we think it really adds to the conversation of what American whiskey can be because it is, it's not bourbon.
Right.
It has bourbon in it. These FEW American whiskey is a vatting of 3 different whiskeys: FEW Bourbon, FEW Rye, and then a weird third whiskey that we originally made. Honestly, we made it as a joke originally,
Right.
but the joke got really unfunny because the whiskey was really tasty. So it's different. It's a vatting of 3 different whiskeys. It's not bourbon. It's not rye. It's not malt. It's just an American whiskey. And we think it's really special because it's delicious. Just won Best in Class at the San Francisco Spirits Awards.
Congratulations.
Which is a big one. I mean, San Francisco is the biggest spirits competition out there that I know of, at least.
Right.
And so winning Best in Class, I think it's a big deal.
That is amazing.
Yeah, you don't. It's the first time we've won Best in Class there. That's for sure, and we're pretty proud of it.
That is excellent. So how did it's a lovely blend of these 3 whiskeys. How was the one a joke? What was the story behind that?
So originally it was supposed to be a joke whiskey because we thought it was really funny. And one of the benefits of working in a distillery is that you can have, we're all here for fun. Turns out we're not here for the money because the money sucks. But we are here for the fun, and the fun is awesome. So we get to make fun. We get to make whiskeys that we think are funny sometimes.
Right.
And this whiskey was originally very funny. And the concept was that we were going to make a pastrami on rye sandwich in a bottle. And we made what was supposed to be a very bready rye, but interesting whiskey. And at the end of maturation, we were going to fill it up with a bunch of pastrami spices. And it would be pastrami on rye, and we'd have a good laugh, and we'd move on because no one's going to buy that. But it's really funny, and it made us happy, so we made it. But the problem was that we had a lot of laughs making it, and then we continued tasting it as it was maturing. And the joke just got less and less funny because the whiskey was amazing. You realize how good. Yeah. Yeah, we're like, I don't want to mess this up by putting pastrami spices in it. That's not funny anymore. This wasn't supposed to be good whiskey. It was supposed to be funny whiskey. This is silly. But it was really good. But we had to figure out what we were going to do with it. So under U.S. law, it qualifies as it would properly be labeled a single malt. Right. Under my moral law, it's not a single malt because it's not 100% malted barley. So we didn't really know what to do with it then, because if you can't call it a single malt, but you have to call it a single malt, what do you do? It's not really a great situation to be in, especially when you got really good whiskey. But we got kind of lucky and started playing around with various blends and playing around with this and playing around with that, and came upon this blend that we thought was just really fantastic. That, the very, very strong flavors of this not malt married really well in a relatively small volume with our bourbon and rye. Right. We played around with that blend. We played, and it's really good. Again, it's another one, kind of like a cold cut, where people are like, oh, I don't drink blended whiskey. Well, you know what? Maybe try it. I don't drink flavored whiskey. I'm not drinking green apple. I got you. Maybe try it. If you don't like it, let's share a drink and move on. But if you do like it, hey, you found something you like.
This is something very, very new. It's unlike any other whiskey I've ever had. The category for American whiskey is, what does it actually define as? I know there's actually it's rather loose and rather.
Yeah, it's just whiskey distilled from grain in America.
And you decided this made most sense with the blend. Yeah. With the
Because I think that's the most. Obviously, I don't want to we're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes or fool anybody.
Of course.
But I think it's the most honest way of saying what it is. It's not bourbon. It's not rye. It's not this. It's not that. It's American whiskey. It's whiskey. It's made in America. All of the bourbon, of course, the bourbon elements follow bourbon rules, until it gets blended with other stuff. The rye follows rye rules, and until it gets blended with other stuff. The malt doesn't really follow any rules, which is what triggered the whole problem.
Right.
But again, put the whiskey in your mouth. If you like it, it doesn't matter what it's named. Well, I don't like that category. Do you like the whiskey? Well, yeah, I like the whiskey. Okay. If you don't like the whiskey, who cares what the category is?
It's delicious stuff. There's so much going on. There's so many layers. It's that the bourbon, the rye, you get those sugars, but you get some fruit, you get some barrel. I mean, there's all these little pops of flavor that that come alive. I mean, even some real subtleties, even just like some fruit subtleties that I get in this, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, I usually get a lot of cherry, like a really like a kind of a tart cherry pie, maybe with a little bit of cranberry, like cherry cranberry pie. So you get a little more tartness even than just a tart cherry.
There's a nice juiciness to this, like juicy.
There's a juiciness. There's a lot of smoke in that blending stock whiskey, but you don't get a lot of smoke in the whiskey. It's really much more there as it's textural more than flavor. If you look for it, you will find it.
Right.
But it's not smoky. It just has smoke texture
that
and depth.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a very deep flavor, more so than a smoky flavor.
It's lovely stuff. I even get just kind of a touch of like almost like a watermelon or some sort of just a real vibrant fruit against that barrel. But it's really interesting.
No, it plays, like I said, it plays really, really well. The judges in San Francisco gave it best in class, and would like to pretend it's for a reason.
It's the FEW, and here it is, FEW American Straight Whiskey. Very nice. That's great. What else is going to be? I mean, obviously, so many great whiskeys and new ones, and the Cold Brew Coffee was just released. When was that? You said about last fall.
Yeah, I think it released in November.
In November.
So it's very new on the market.
Very new.
It's still rolling out.
Anything coming up that you're working on? You want to talk about?
We're always working on stuff, and then we've got a bunch of different whiskeys sitting in barrel that we don't know what's going to happen with them, and
right.
We're doing some other really cool stuff that we'll see how it actually proceeds. We had plans to release a new whiskey on September 1st, but we also didn't plan on being shut down for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 18 weeks. I don't know. So we still kind of plan on that, but we'll see if that comes out or not.
Is that
I hope it does.
Talked about yet, or is it one that you've?
We're not really talking about it too much. It's a little it's sort of secret. It's drinking really, really well. We're real excited about it. Again, it's another kind of genre bending thing.
All right.
It's kind of more out of the little more of the kind of left field work that we do, but we're real excited about it.
It sounds exciting, and definitely we'll look forward to bringing you that news on bourbonblog.com whenever Paul and the team are able to release it. Hopefully it'll be sooner than later. We hope this will be something for all our craft distiller friends, all our friends in hospitality, bartenders, restaurants, hotels. Hopefully this will end soon, and we're thinking of you guys, and continue to support. Drink local. Order from those local restaurants. Do all you can right now. Even virtual tip jars. You probably have heard people doing virtual tip jars in their homes to just give a little tip every time you have a drink. Find a way to support the USBG, whatever it might be. Any other thoughts as far as in COVID, how ways people can support? Paul, anything else we'd want to tell?
I think the number one way you can support everybody is stay alive.
Stay alive. That's right.
Pardon my French, but stay the fuck at home.
That's important.
So number one thing you can do, stay alive.
Stay alive.
Be with your family, be with your friends, get on Zoom, get on StreamYard, talk to people. Don't be alone. It's lonely enough as it is, but please reach out.
Just have that connection of some kind.
Have a connection. Talk to somebody. We're all in this together. Figure out whatever it is you can do to have a connection with folks.
Yeah.
But again, think back to the stuff that you like. What do you enjoy doing? And keep on supporting it. If you like to go out to eat at restaurants, send some money to restaurants. They're dying. You like to have a big variety of craft spirits. You like to have a variety of whiskeys. Support the variety of whiskeys. Don't just buy all. Don't just go buy a case of commodity brand X.
Right.
Buy Buy 6 bottles of commodity brand X and 6 bottles of the small brands. Buy 3, 3, 3, 3. Buy a variety. If you like bands and you like live music, tip them on their live shows.
Right.
Don't watch the live shows. I've seen some amazing live music.
Oh yeah.
From the comfort of my couch, and no, it's not as good. It is not the same. But God damn it, it's better than nothing.
That's right.
And get on the phone with your buddy and you watch the same show together and hang out. Do something, support the things you love and spend money doing it, because that's what lets people bring it to you. Whiskey exists. Yes. All of us in the whiskey business, we are all in it for the whiskey. None of us are here for the money, but we kind of need it. We need that money to pay rent. We need that money to pay staff. We got to pay our farmers. We got to pay the truckers. Yes, it's about the whiskey, but we also got to survive.
Because there's so many people in that chain of supply, from the grain to everything that go into this, that we think about it, but now we really think about it, don't we?
Right. It's the farmers, it's the truckers, it's the mills, it's the bottles, it's the glass, it's the trucks that move things around, it's the distributors that make it happen, it's the sales reps, it's the marketing guys, it's the barrel guys, the barrel coopers. Now let's get into the guys who cut down the trees. So you got the lumberjacks, you got the trucks that drive the lumber from here to there.
Right, that's true.
You've got a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and we're all very interconnected. It's not just like one area of life all of a sudden falls apart. It all falls apart.
Right.
If there's something you like, spend money on it, and don't just crawl up into a ball. Above all, stay safe, stay healthy, stay the fuck at home.
Right.
Please stay home. But virtual tip jars, order delivery, order gift cards. There's always stuff you can do, and it makes a big difference.
It really does. And thank you for reminding us of that tonight, Paul, in a way that has the passion, has the experience. I mean, you've done so much for the craft spirits and the spirits industry, and we really salute you, Paul, and your team, and everybody that works with you there. You guys are awesome, and thanks for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad to be on, Tom. It's always good to see you, and always enjoy chatting with you.
You too, my friend. You too. This has been fun for me every night to see great friends like you, Paul, and bring those people together who've been watching us and sipping along with us. And if you're one of those folks that's been watching the whole time and you're still watching, share this, like it. We want to make sure we put that word out for everybody to see. And most importantly, keep on supporting the people that need it. Drink local, and cheers. Cheers, Paul. We'll have a final toast here with this American whiskey, and hopefully we'll be seeing you soon in Illinois or someplace.
Yeah, hope to see you soon, man. And all of you out there in viewer land, Slanjavan.
Cheers.